Hi, and welcome to the video. My name is Luca, this is the Castle of Reverie, and around here, for now, we're talking about books. So, I haven't done like a monthly wrap-up. The last one I did was for January. And now we're in June, and I would like to do a reading wrap-up for the last 4 months, basically. Everything that I have read in February, March, April, and May. So I think we have like 30 books or something that I've read so far since the last one. So let's just get into the video. I will just list these off. I will not be capable of giving you like a synopsis for every single one of them, simply because there are a lot. There are many books. So, first part, February. In February, I read Gwen and Art Are Not in Love. This is a YA historical queer love story. I really enjoyed it. Very cute, gorgeous. Did not rate it. I didn't rate any of these books, I think. Then I read Dreamland by Nicholas Sparks. And I think I read Witch of Wild Things for the same video. Witch of Wild Things is by Raquel Vasquez Gilliland. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And those three I think I read for a reading vlog of reading romance books. I will link that video down below. And the fourth book that I happened to read in February is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. Now, in March, I finished a book that I had been reading for quite a while, like basically since the year before on my birthday. It's called Your Head is a Houseboat. I'm pretty sure that I talked about that book before as well on the channel. It's the one that I used for my journaling prompts, so yeah, I would totally recommend it. It was gorgeous. And then I also read Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson and Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. These two books and also the Riley Sager book from February were read for a video where I read the favorite books of BookTube from last year, 2023. And so I enjoyed all of them. Project Hail Mary is a book that to this day I find myself thinking about and wanting to recommend to people because I loved it. It was gorgeous. I gave it 5 stars. If I had the physical version, it would end up on my favorite shelf. April, again, 4 books. So the first book that I finished in April was Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellefleur. This one I started reading for the romance reading vlog, but I didn't finish. Then I picked up, actually a book that I have physically. I picked up Fathom Folk by Eliza Chan, which I got in my Illumicrate box. I think it was February or March. And I enjoyed it. I think it was quite nice, and I think I read that within like 4 days or something, because I was just like, okay, what do I want to read? Well, I like this cover, let me read it. Because, again, I was in some sort of reading slump. That's why, again, here, only 4 books read this month. I read 2 graphic novels. Not on the same days, actually, like 2 weeks apart. So I read Squire, which I found just okay. And I read The City of Dreaming Books, which if you have watched the video 2 weeks ago, you're going to know that this book, well, not necessarily this book, is my favorite book of all time. So this book is the first part of the graphic novel adaptation drawn by the same author who wrote this book. This is my favorite book of all time. This is the part of the graphic novel version, and I read this because I wanted to read this book, and I'm probably going to read this book soon, and there's probably going to be a reading vlog or something because I miss it, and I read the graphic novel because it's a quicker way to immerse myself in that story and in that vibe, but I also noticed that I really miss all of the descriptions and how everything, was written in words without the drawings. So reading this just firmed up my belief that I really need to reread that book. And now, May. So In May, I read a total of 18 books. Yes, that's a lot. Many of these are either audiobooks or graphic novels. So the first book that I read in May was a graphic novel, and it was Mooncakes. This book was very cozy, very cute. There were stakes, and I would have loved to just stay in the cozy part of the book a bit longer, but still, I really enjoyed it, and I really like the color palettes and the art style and the characters, so I would highly recommend this. After that one, as you may have noticed, I was still in a bit of a reading slump, and I wanted something that would be easy and that would be quick and that would allow me to, read something and log it for the readathon, because I was like, okay, well, what do I read next? Anything that is simple that will get me to reading, that is not as dreadful as a different book that I was reading at the same time, because at the same time I was reading this one, and as you can see, my bookmark is still in there. We are still trying to make this work. We've been trying since February. This isn't going well. Anyway, so the next graphic novel that I read is the first volume in Lore Olympus. I have the first 5 volumes. Volume 6, I think, is out just now, like a month ago or something. And my partner got that one for me, but I don't have it yet because they have it at their place. And I will get it when I next visit them. Then I read like a fantasy mystery sort of book, like a detective book. It's called The Rivers of London by Ben Aronovich, and there exist graphic novels to this. I do not have them. My partner has them, so I will most likely read the graphic novels of this series as well. I have the first 6 books in this series, and I'm very much looking forward to reading all of the other books. I really enjoyed this one. It has just the right amount of stakes, and it was gorgeous. I really like the writing style. I flew through it very much. Then I read a manga. I do not have the physical version, so you're gonna have to deal without it. I read 4 mangas in total, I think, in this month. The first one is the first volume of Snow White with the Red Hair, or Akagami no Shirayuki Hime. I read the first 2 volumes. First volume now, second later. Then I read the Ruby Red trilogy, all 3 books, all in audiobook, Ruby Red, Sapphire Blue, and then I switched to Assassination Classroom Volume 1, Assassination Classroom Volume 2, and Assassination Classroom Volume 3. Then I read Emerald Green, the 3rd book in the Ruby Red trilogy, and I read the 2nd volume of Snow White with the Red Hair. After that, I read Anne of Greenville, which is like an Anne of Green Gable retelling sort of thing, and it's queer, and I really liked it. It was very fun. Then I read the Colonizer Romance before knowing what it was, because again, it was in my Illumicrate subscription, and I was like, okay, fine. For the readathon, one of the things we had to read was an author's debut, and this happens to be the author's debut, so I read it. I did not really enjoy it. Then I read a book that I really didn't like. It's called Thriving with Adult ADHD, and I'm not gonna get into it. Please don't read it. It sucks. Like, some of the tips are nice, but in the end, the person claims to be a specialist with ADHD, but specifically is a couples counselor. That is literally his qualifications, and that he happened to be a coach, not a therapist, specifically a coach for people who have ADHD tendencies. Again, never saying they are diagnosed with ADHD or they have ADHD, just they have ADHD tendencies and these things help them. I hated it. It was terrible. Like, I felt like he didn't know any of the actual struggles. Like, literally, it was just a book that, again, lists all of the things, like, make sure you keep your space tidy and write down the things that you want to accomplish. Like, get a planner, basically. Have you tried using a calendar? I didn't like it. Highly not recommend. Then I read Aiko Kodono's Kiki's Delivery Service. This is for a video that I'm still working on in the future, So you're gonna see more of that later, I think. And then I read 2 more psychology books. The first one being Self-Care for Autistic People by Dr. Megan Anna Neff. This is a book by an autistic person for autistic people, and like it's kind of a step-by-step guide. Like it gives you really very short things on how to build your life so that it is more sustainable for you yourself. Tips that you can actually use, like actionable things, and I really enjoyed this. The insight in this book has helped me a lot with communicating stuff with my partner, and also just knowing stuff for myself, knowing things that I would have to focus on when I want to make sure that I don't burn out while, you know, doing university. Then I read Marsha Linehan's memoir, which is Building a Life Worth Living. If you don't know her, Marsha is the person who created dialectical behavior therapy, which is basically the only type of therapy that has actually been proven to help highly suicidal people. And I was really interested in learning more about DBT. So this is basically her life story plus an introduction of basically everything in DBT, with the introduction to the DBT therapy things at the times in her life when she first introduced them, or when they would have helped her the most. So she has chapters where she's like, okay, this is something that I intuitively did at some point when I got out of this hellhole, and this is how it got transformed over the years, and these are the skills that are now in DBT. And I really enjoyed it. I would highly recommend it. Check all trigger warnings for like any of these, but like check trigger warnings please. And then the last book on this list, the last one that I read in this month, was Giant Days by John Allison and Whitney Kogar. It is basically, I read this as like a pick-me-up on a day where I had a really shitty day and I was really struggling with university. So I was like, okay, let's read this book about, you know, college girls who are just trying to figure life out. And it helped. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was fun. So let me know what you've read recently, and maybe let me know that based on these things, based on the things that I enjoy, what you think that I would enjoy. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you're going to have a very great day. Like the video if you did enjoy. Go and subscribe, because that way you're going to be capable of finding your way back here more easily. And also you're going to signal to the YouTube algorithm that you enjoyed it, so therefore maybe other people will also enjoy it much more. And I will see you next week in the next video. Bye!